and welcome to the Crafty Little Rat podcast. I think we're on episode 14, that's the one thing I forgot to check before we started. That was good, wasn't it? So welcome to this professionally polished podcast by myself, the Crafty Little Rat. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Crafty Little Rat. And yeah, I think that's about it. So we're a bi-weekly podcast, supposedly. We're not a very polished podcast, but I podcast from where I live in Newport, South Wales, and I knit, I spin, I crochet, I weave a little tiny bit, just started weaving, so yeah, look forward to hopefully getting to know you. I can leave me a comment below, or my email is craftylittlerat@outlook.co.uk. As usual, I'm not particularly prepared this week. I have no project notes on my tablet. Well, I say my tablet, it's Reese's tablet, but it's my tablet really. So shall I do first my FO frenzy for the week? Yeah, I used to do works in progress first, but I've changed it around now to doing finished objects first, I think. So this is a blanket. It is approximately 40 inches square, sort of 39.5. So I won't be able to show you it all, probably not all in one shot at the same time. But its blanket is the nicest sort of phrasing I can use for it. It's a corner-to-corner blanket, and the yarn is this So Crafty, which is pink baby yarn, yellow, pink and blue stripe, and it's an oldie yarn. So oldie put this in stores a week ago last Thursday, so it's been in there for a little bit, and I thought, oh brilliant, not realising it looked just like an ordinary chunky yarn online, and I thought brilliant, I made somebody in work a blanket, and there's another person in work who's having a little girl at Christmas time, so I thought that would be great, brilliant, it would be chunky, and it's sort of a mock chenille, or maybe it's sort of a chenille-esque yarn. It's super chunky, it smells pretty sort of acrylic-y, plasticky, and while I'm not an acrylic snob, I use an awful lot of acrylic. But I like to think now that I use the higher end acrylics. The Stylecraft is my favourite acrylic of all time. And Berger de France, we'll use Berger de France acrylic occasionally. Like it. This, not so much. It's very, very thick. It worked up within a week, exactly 1 week. It's super chunky. I used 7 balls. I had this left over, which is about half a ball out of the 8. Don't ask me why. I increased up to 400 grams. I should have decreased down to nothing, but that's fine. This will go in my stash and hopefully be forgotten about at some point. The price point was particularly why I did this. The person who I'm crocheting for is a non-knitter, non-crochet, non-crafter, full stop. She likes pink. She likes bright colours. She likes easy care things. This is machine wash. It's just not to tumble dry, but I can't see what harm it would do. I'm not going to try it. But the pack of 4, it came in packs of 4, so I bought 2 lots of 4. They were £3.49 each. So for about £7, got this blanket, and it's exactly what she will want, and it's a decent size for baby as well. She knows that she's having a girl, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely more of a case of catering to my audience, catering to who the blanket is for rather than for me, because I'm definitely more of a classic lace and cables. I use the corner-to-corner pattern, so you can sort of see, I know that that's not a true corner, but it builds up diagonally, which is really quick. Now, I like the look of this pattern, but it is very much Marmite in the crochet world, I found out. You either love it or you hate it. So, but yeah, it works up quickly. I've made the Cedar River, that I made before. I've just got a can of pop. It can be really bad, not burps, but sort of bubbles. More information than you needed to know, really, that, isn't it? I made the Cedar River blanket, which is a corner to corner one, and I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed making this. I just don't enjoy the wool, I think. But there we go. So that's the only thing I've managed to complete in the last 2 weeks since I've spoken to you. But that's not too bad, is it? Right. Okay, 4. You're still working on that, which is where we talk about works in progress. My biggest work in progress is buried underneath a pile of new yarn. But I finished one sock in the 2 weeks. And this is the dark side colourway of Knit Picks Felici. So I just did an ordinary sock. I used 2.25mm needles, or US ones, and I cast on 64 stitches. The heel is a slip stitch heel pattern, which is in black, so you can't see that very well, I'm afraid. And then the heel turn is a banded or German strap heel. And the toe is just a standard toe decrease. 20 rows of ribbing at the top. So that's the first one of that done. I love the softness of Felici, but it does pill. It's already sort of started to pill, and they've not even been worn once yet. Saying that, that's not going to stop me buying them. One day I will try Felici's on zeros, US zeros, which is 2.0mm, not 2.25s. So this is the second sock. Today's Sunday, by the way. I always forget to say that. And yesterday, Saturday, I started from the cuff and I worked all the way down the foot, all the way down the heel, turned the heel, and got on to the picked up stitches for the gusset. So today I've done the gusset and I'm working my way down the foot. Still relatively early, it's only 6:15, but I am losing a bit of light, I am sorry. So I'm going to hopefully see what I can do today with that. I'd like to have them finished by the end of the month. Yeah, so that's the yarn, how the yarn looks. It's sort of, I've been pulling out the centre and it's sort of collapsed a bit now. But yeah, I had 35 grams remaining out of the first one. No, I used 35 grams of yarn for the first one. So I only had 15 grams remaining. So I'm hoping it'll be the same. And I keep the scraps from my socks to eventually do something with them. But I'm evidently not doing anything I said I would be doing with them. I used to make, I haven't made in a while. Let's put it like this. I haven't made in a while any of these little 4-inch zoom loom squares. So I'm going to have to get back, I think, to having a little go with those. So my other work in progress hasn't seen a lot of action. Haven't done anything on my batik cardigan at all since I spoke to you 2 weeks ago. Wanted to have it done by October the 1st to wear to the wool shop, but the weather we've been having, still probably going to be a bit too warm to wear it. I don't know why. Oh, well, I do know why, because that corner to corner baby blanket sucked up a week of my time. And it was just nice to get that out of the way, I suppose. So the next one is Flight of the Owl, which is a pattern by Heather Anderson. So this is, I haven't got a lot further than where I showed you guys last week. I don't know whether I said last time. I'll use last week repeatedly when I mean last time. So I've done a few rows, which you can't see. So I've done a tiny few rows of the border. Yeah, you really can't see. I've done like 3 rows of the border. The problem I had with this was that the needles I was using weren't particularly well equipped for doing what I was doing, which was the knit 4 togethers. They just didn't feel sharp enough, which they should have done because they were the higher sharps. So whether it's the combination of the fact that they were higher sharps and the material, because this is linen, but the knit 4 togethers were feeling quite sort of tricky to do, really. So I bought some new needles. These are not my favourites because they're brass plated, and I don't really like brass plated needles, but they are the Addi they're the Addi not sharps, that's the higher. Addy turbos, maybe, I don't know. They're Addy lace, that's the ones that they are. God, Hannah, come on, brain. Addy lace. And they're not actually that much sharper than the side by side than the Addy lace, but they do seem to do a better job. Don't know. So I've done a couple of rows of that. I need to wind some more yarn because I'm down to just this little nugget. But bearing in mind that this is the first ball of yarn still, I get the feeling I'm going to have a bit left over. But the yarn again is the Lithuanian linen by Midwinter Yarns. It's lovely. It's 100% linen. The more you wear it, the more you use it, the softer it gets. So because this shawl is my own design, and that's out of the Lithuanian linen. And it's a lovely sort of a summer weight shawl. It's not too hot at all. Right, so that's it for works in progress. What I've been doing quite a bit of actually is spinning. I know, I haven't spun in so long. It's been forever since I've actually spun. Over a year since I finished an actual spinning project. My wheel has mostly sort of sat empty since then. So I've got 2 to show you and 1 on the go right now. So if I show you my finished object first, which is this. So this is a skein of porpoise fur fibre that I bought in Bath at, bought in Bath, not at Wool, the other one, a good yarn in Bath. And I really like this, and I love fibre because I really wanted some of the porpoise fur dyed yarns, but it was just too, I didn't have enough money left on me at that point in time, not in order to eat as well that day. So I bought the fibre, because fibre is normally a lot cheaper than finished yarn, because obviously you have to go and put in your own effort. But it's a traditional 2-ply, so I split the bobbin in half-ish, split the fibre in half-ish, and spun 2 lots end to end, and then just plied them together. This was just how they came. I didn't do anything fancy with regards to fibre prep. There we go, that's better. It is apparently a worsted. I used the worsted spinning technique to sort of the short forward draw even. And once I'd sort of washed the yarn, I give it a bit of a beat, I give it a bit of a whack, just, general finishing techniques. I really like it. It came out a lot more yellow and a lot more brown than I thought it was going to be, but the purple pops in it are just absolutely gorgeous, I think. I got, apparently, 383 yards, and it's 107 grams. The porpoise fur is put up in 4-ounce bundles, which is just slightly more than we're used to in the UK. So that was, that's always a bit of a bonus. Because I'm still at the stage with spinning where I find that I lose little bits now and then, just from sort of inexperience. But 90%, I think, on the second bobbin, I don't think it snapped at any point. And I think only once during plying I had to connect it. Well, twice, because I swore I evenly wound onto the bobbins, as some of you might have seen on Instagram, but evidently I didn't, and I ended up with a lot more left on one bobbin than the other. So what I did was I wound it off using my ball winder into a centre pull ball, and then I plied it, I carried on plying, using one thread from the inner of the ball and one thread from the outer of the ball, and that worked really well, so... what else have I got? I had a little skein somewhere which has disappeared of some very, very bright pink yarn. I made a little mini skein. I made a little mini skein of bright pink with some fibre I had, but I've obviously forgotten that. I'll have to bring that for you next time. And then this is a tiny little skein. I did, these are singles. So fibre, for those of you who aren't spinners, that's just where you take fibre and spin it and then, deal with it like that. You don't ply it backwards on itself at all. Just deal with it as it is. So this is a long draw technique I used. This is a if that's a woolen, if that's a worsted preparation, this is a woolen preparation. And although it's a lot thicker, try and get one to compare. Although it's a lot thicker, you can see that there is a lot more air in there compared to the worsted method. So in order to do this, this is samples of fibre that I got at the wool gathering for Wonderwool this year. Just little tiny, oops, that's my tablet dying. Little tiny bumps of fibre, just sort of that much, not a lot, and it was Ashford yarns. So because I went with a few non-spinners, I ended up with non-spinners. The non-spinners ended up gifting me their bits out of their pack, which was brilliant. So I used 2 of those bumps in order to make this, and I created faux lags. So a rolag is basically a tube of fibre, and so with worsted spinning, all of your fibres you want to lay the same way. This came off commercial top, which is the standard sort of no, that's just a puff, I think, but technical terms here. Yeah, so that came off standard top, which is very much like this. You see how all of the fibres are laying exactly in the same direction. So in order to make that into a faux lag, rolags normally come prepared straight off hand carders. They're normally made out of fleece, but in order to prepare that, you just sort of puff it up and then you roll it so that it's sort of sideways. So that way, when it pulls when you attach it and it pulls the fibres out, pulls them all out a bit more higgledy-piggledy than straight. So apparently, we're all learning things today. That's gorgeous. This feels really nice, actually. I hadn't actually got this out of the pack. It's Exmoor Blueface. Again, this is a thing from the coupon code for the 31st of May. So yeah, but this is another one from Wonderwool. So yeah, that's the sort of the size that people gave us, which is brilliant. I mean, fantastic, really. So where was I going with that? So yeah, so this is a woolen spun, not a worsted spun, and it was my first time doing that. So what you do is you attach the rolag, you let the spin go into the fibre slightly, and you pull and pull and pull and pull back. And because there's a bit of twist already in the rolag, it doesn't disintegrate. So you're just sort of pulling it out. It sort of feels like sort of pulling elastic slightly, because you sort of get a bit of a bounce back. So you've just sort of got to keep pulling. And then when it's the sort of the consistency you want, you let it feed onto the bobbin. It's different. I'm not entirely sure I like it. I like the result, but I think, again, like anything else that's new, it's going to take me a while. It will take me a while to get a consistent woolen yarn. And I don't know, it's not as consistent. It's very, very bouncy. That's why I only did this as a single ply. I didn't want to ply it back on itself, because I wanted to see and fully understand the nice textures. So what I did instead with this was I semi-felted it. So once I'd finished my skein, dunked it in hot water, dunked it in cold water, dunked it in hot water, dunked it in cold water, and repeated that a few times, and it sort of semi-felted the yarn so that it's not hopefully going to untwist as I do things with it. I'm not sure what I will do with it, and I'm not sure about the length or anything even like that yet. So but yeah, it was an interesting experiment, and that's the good thing about these little bits, is it's worthwhile having an experiment before you before I committed, or before I used 100 grams of fibre and committed myself to doing that. So my next spin, I've gone back to my worsted ways, is some milk protein tops. Yeah, this is an interesting fibre. I bought this from Willow Fibres. Again, I'm not sure whether this will flip in post. But it wasn't expensive, 50 grams, I think it was £2.50. So this is the top, and it's very, very smooth. It's like silk. I would imagine it spins like silk does. I've not actually spun silk. So it's but it's got quite a bit of a sort of a halo. It's quite sort of fluffy as well. so you have to keep trying to wrangle it back in. It's very, very fine. You end up with little bits of fibre everywhere. So I fancied doing something a little bit different and having a spin with this. So I'm working on that at the moment. This is my bobbin. That bit's applied back on itself, of course, just for safekeeping. But if I just unravel a tiny bit, put it over there. So I'm going reasonably thin with this. It's thicker and thinner in places, but it's going to be a 2-ply in the end. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to wind it for a centre pull ball and wind it back on itself. Seems to be quite a bit in there as well, actually, to be honest, considering that I'm maybe a third of the way through the fibre. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I'm thinking I'll probably dye this at some point as well. Apparently it takes jacquard dyes or acid dyes beautifully. If I've got any left, I can't remember whether I binned them all, but if not, I'll take it to the shop one day and try and just give it a quick dye while I'm at the shop. So that's it for In a Spin. I never really introduced that section properly, did I? But never mind. So my next section is shiny, so things that I've picked up and bought. I suppose not really going in any particular order. Last time I showed you the 2 Bergère de France Reflects that I picked up. I picked up another one. This is the pistachio, sesame colourway. It was a seed, a nut. The sesame colourway. So it's a sort of a taupe with bits of gold, there's bits of red, bits of green in there as well. And I figured that the 3 go reasonably well together. And I thought I'm going to do a Drachenfels shawl with those at some point in the very near future, hopefully. I was ordering needles, and I thought, well, I might as well just order the yarn while I see it, while I know that I want another one, while I know what pattern I want in my head. So I did. So like last time, the colourway is Sesame number 67, 61% cotton, 39% polyester. I don't know if I said that last time. And there is 100 grams, 328 yards or 300 metres in a skein. So hopefully, because I didn't actually consult my pattern again before I did this, but hopefully that's enough to knit what I want to knit. If not, it's a Bergère yarn, it's fairly ubiquitous, so hopefully there'll be some left. When I went away the other week with my parents and my husband, we went to Aberystwyth, near Aberystwyth, Devil's Falls. We went down to the Welsh War Museum, which was awesome, really, really interesting. Mostly sort of weaving. Like Yorkshire, Wales has a long history of weaving. However, unlike Yorkshire, you know, Yorkshire's has been decimated. Wales's has been practically wiped out. I think there's maybe 2, maybe 3 working mills still there. This one is a museum now, but still is a working mill slightly. There's a weaver in there who makes shawls and blankets and things like that. But yeah, that was interesting. And of course they have wool, Cambrian mountain wool. So I picked up this skein. I thought I picked up skeins that were the same weight, but they're not. Picked up this skein of yellow, which doesn't even have a colourway number on it. It just says from the flocks of Wales. Say better. They put the price labels, right? It's £5 a ball. They put the price labels right over. Oh, and sticky taped them on as well, I think. Come on, I don't want to remember how much I paid for it. I never want to remember how much I paid for it. Cambrian Mountains Wool CIC, which is a community interest company. Inspired by the HRH, the Prince of Wales, to help sustain traditional upland farms and communities, our brand incorporates the Prince's watercolour of Cumberwen. So yeah, a very tiny picture of his watercolour of Cumberwen. Whatever Cum means, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, this is a 4-ply. C16700 may even be the colourway. There's 50 grams, 164 yards or 150 metres. And then I picked up this one, which is obviously my colour. And this one is 16721. and this is a DK weight, so there's 109 yards to or 100 meters per 50 grams in this one. So I was thinking that maybe I do want to combine the two and try and do something with texture by knitting a 4-ply and a double knit together. I'm not entirely sure what, because obviously it's going to have to be something relatively small because I've only got 100 grams. But I figured maybe a hat or something. Sort of use the differences in the wool to my advantage. I don't know. It's probably going to sit in a stash for several years, and then by then I might have bought more to go with each other. And yes, I know they have completely different labels, but Reese and Mum were waiting, and Reese and Mum and Dad were waiting, and were like, oh, for God's sake, Hannah, come out of the gift shop. So that's why I ended up with two completely different skeins, two completely different weights. I may even just do a hat out of one and gloves out of the other, or sort of short fingerless things out of this and a hat out of this. Normally I don't really wear yellows, but I think as long as I get the right sort of tone of yellows, she says. I've gone for a very unique colour palette this time round. Yellow, orange, browny orange. But anyway, so this is the thing I bought last time, but I didn't manage to show you. This is that's showing up horribly. I really am losing the light now. But this is it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's showing as brown. It is 110% showing as brown, but it's not. It's sort of light brown and treacle and sort of hints of orange and yellow and everything. The colourway is called Treacle Mining in West Lothian, and it's by Dye Ninja, and it's one of her Terry Pratchett colourways. So a certain proportion of this goes towards Alzheimer's care. This has got to be, it's going to be a shawl, I think. It's my only thing. I love her, but please do something with nylon in it for socks. Because it's not, this isn't normally a colour I can get away with wearing. I probably will, but it may go to my mother. This is very more my mother's sense of colour, as much as I love it. 100% fine merino wool, 365 yards, 400 yards, approximately 100 grams. But yeah, I really liked it, and it's really not showing up well here, but it does sort of suit me a bit more when it's not quite so dark. And knitted up fabric looks completely differently often to how it looks in the skein. But I really do love that. I keep petting that every time I go past that one. Okay, and then my last purchase was some Cornish tin too. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Angie managed to find me Cornish tin 1 earlier this year from in Stroud. There's a pet shop, wool shop, half pet, half wool. But she's a black stockist, so she had one. And when I missed out on tin 2 on the website, Angie very kindly offered to go to check to see. She wanted some of the tin 2 to see if she was a stockist. She wasn't, but luckily Blacker Yarns got back to me and told me of a place that still had the 4-ply in stock, which is what I wanted, in the colourway I wanted. So Wool on the X was where I ended up going to. So this is, it's Cornish tin 2, it's their 11th birthday yarn. It's 70% wool, 10% mohair, 20% alpaca. It's a very slightly different makeup from tin 1. That's my hair there, sorry. But it's lovely, and the 70% wool, it's all British. Everything in it is British. Blacker Yarns are a very big British wool creator. So this colourway, this is a woolen spun yarn, and you can see what I mean. If I compare it to this, which is a worsted spun yarn, you can immediately sort of tell. It says, and I think that this is the problem. A lot of people have said, but it's just so thick. How is it 4-ply? It feels like DK. We're so used to spinning with worsted weight yarns rather than woolen spun yarns that we're, you know, we're sure how to deal with it. So it's big, it's squishy, it's fluffy. It captures a lot of air in there. So this colourway is Dulcaf, which I butchered, by the way. Cornish Mines is the name. Dulcaf Turquoise, and then I've got this one as well, which is Kitty Wheel Kitty Orange. and I love the two of them together. Again, this is showing slightly more brown than it is. It's orange, but it's sort of an earthy, rusty orange. It's lovely. It's really, really nice. And the two together are going to definitely become a shawl. I'm thinking cables. I'm thinking 2 coloured cables, potentially. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I haven't gone Ravelry queue hunting yet because I've got so much that I want to do and just so little time. But this is it. I say this every week, right? Or every other week at the very least. I'm not buying any more, but I'm definitely... I'm going to try and maybe buy one skein when I go to Gloucester next week because they've got sock yarn in, the new Stylecraft sock yarn, and I'd like to give that a try. But the problem is by the time I buy things, by the time I get around to giving them a try, you know, they've been out for 6 to 12 months because I'm just such a slow, not a slow knitter, but just because I have so much stuff to knit. Anyway, so that's it. A very, very short week in review. I started my new job 2 weeks ago. It's going well. That didn't sound particularly convincing. No, it's going okay. It's very, very different. There's a lot to get used to. There's new teams to get used to. There's new ways of working to get used to. It's very different from anything I've ever done before. And it's a very different level of management from what I've done before. My previous managers have all been incredibly hands-on with regards to sort of assigning things. Right, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this other thing for me. Whereas this is your overall objective. Figure it out how you're going to get there. And I'm sure if I asked for more guidance, then they probably would. But it is taking a little bit of getting used to, I have to admit. But it will all be fine. It'll all come out in the wash. They obviously liked me enough to hire me at interview stage. So, you know, it's just sort of a bit of that, a bit of, you know, imposter syndrome, I suppose, in that, like, oh God, they think I'm capable of doing all of this. Am I capable of doing all of this? That and the fact that my apprenticeship hasn't started and won't start till January, which is what I was going in this job to start. So I can see they're pointing a way of trying to get me to find my feet before I start, but also try and find out how to do your job without the course that's telling you how to do your job. Seems a bit backwards at times, but never mind, it'll all come out, I'm sure it will. And besides, I've got lovely yarn to come home and play with, so that's always a bonus, right? I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm off to Gloucester next week. I'm going to go teach a magic loop class we're going to do tiny socks, baby socks, I think. So I've got to make sure I write out the pattern for that. Yeah, because a lot of them haven't done magic loop. Magic loop's my preferred method, of course. So we're only doing baby socks to try and ensure we can get through them in the 2 hours. So I'm going to do a very short one. That's about it, I think. Haven't got a lot else to tell you. You can contact me, as I said, through Ravelry or Instagram. CraftyLittleRat on both, and CraftyLittleRat at outlook.co.uk for my email address. The other thing is